This is Joshua Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And here is your quick look at the LG G2 and the Samsung Galaxy S4. Now, if you haven't seen our full review of LG's newest flagship phone, please make sure to do so. Here we are taking a look at it and Samsung's flagship. One of the first things that you notice about the G2 is its updated button layout. Instead of putting the power button and the volume rocker on the sides, they have been relocated to the back to be pressed by your index finger. This is different from the classical layout of the S4, but it is a lot easier to get used to than you might think. It doesn't take very long for it to feel natural. Samsung's tactile home button up front has no LG counterpart as the G2 uses software keys. Material-wise, we're looking at very similar phones here. Both employ the glossy plastic that can feel a little bit slippery to the touch. In the hands, however, they do feel equally as light. The S4 was initially surprisingly light for such a packed phone, and the G2 echoes this. You can really throw either phone around with no problems. Thinner bezels on the G2 do mean that the screen on it is a tad bigger, but otherwise, the screen handling experience is very similar in either device. Speaking of the screens, the G2 has 0.2 inches on the S4, giving it a little more real estate to work with. It is, in this case, a battle of the G2's IPS screen that lends itself to high brightness, while the Super AMOLED of the S4 is well known for its high saturation. The S4 does pack a little more pixel density at 441 ppi as opposed to the 424 on the G2, but honestly, side by side, we see equally very high quality in either screen. Both are capable of great viewing angles, and the colors of the G2's IPS screen actually rival the colors of the Super AMOLED. So there's no doubt that either screen will bring you a fine experience. When you look under the hood, the G2 gets a bit of the advantage with the Snapdragon 800, the higher performing counterpart to the Snapdragon 600 that is found in the S4. It also gets the updated Adreno 330 instead of the tried and true 320. Without a doubt, there is real speed between these two phones, as going through their elements and multitasking are easy and incredibly smooth. But then, the G2 sports a non-removable 3000 mAh battery as opposed to the 2600 mAh removable unit of the S4. And though the G2 sports more onboard storage at a base 32 gigabytes, that's the standard, while the 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes available in various versions of the S4 is expandable. It is in the camera that the G2 is a bit of a pioneer, packing optical image stabilization, which will be a hot item to have in the coming year. LG does keep up pretty well with Samsung's camera additions, but doesn't quite pack as many different modes. Of course, in the S4, there are a lot of creative modes to enhance your smartphone photography. However, with the OIS and the G2, not only will videos benefit from the stabilization, but a better ability to flood in light for darker situations can give it yet another edge. And to round this out, we'll turn these bad boys on and look at the software. In the S4, we were given new ways of navigating various situations in the UI, and LG wanted to add in a few of their own. While the G2 packs some of the same features like Smart Stay and Smart Pause, on top of all of the Q features that LG veterans may already be familiar with, it added in a few new ones. Ones we'll mention here are the Knock Knock feature, which allows you to wake or sleep the phone by tapping twice on the screen, and the Slide Aside, which puts aside the current app with a 3-finger swipe. The S4's by now well-known additions of hand gestures and floating finger air views give it its own unique flavor in TouchWiz compared to LG's Optimus UI. Ultimately, it's all a personal matter if any or some or even none of these additions prove practical or useful for you. And so, there you have it. A nice quick look at the LG G2 and the Samsung Galaxy S4. It's pretty obvious who LG is targeting here, and even though there are quite a few similarities between these phones, there are also plenty of differences that do well to separate these two flagships. We'll have more on the G2 soon, so stay tuned to Android Authority for all of the upcoming action.